Hi everyone, it's Monday, June 3rd. I'm Senator Sharon Hewitt, and this is the Capitol Report. I'm here in the Senate chamber, and I'll give you an update today about the work we've been doing over these last 57 days. I'll talk about many of the bills that we've passed, give you an update on the budget, talk about the infrastructure projects that I'm most excited about, and then wrap up with work that I think we have left to do next year. I'm here in the Senate chamber where the action really happens. It's been a busy 57 days, and we only have 3 days left. And I'm sorry I haven't done as many updates this session. It's been really busy. I think my workload has increased quite a bit, not just because of the bills that I'm handling, but my work to help other people get their bills passed as well. And in many cases, the work I've been doing has lasted for the last couple of years. For example, like the Uber-Lyft bill. Hallelujah, but we are about to have a statewide plan, a statewide program for transportation network companies. So no longer will you end up taking an Uber or a Lyft one direction and then have trouble getting back. You'll be able to get Uber and Lyft all across the state. Those of you that want the opportunity to have a part-time job with Uber and Lyft, you'll be able to do that. It's going to be a great economic opportunity for our state, and I'm glad to be part of the effort to get it done this year. I had a big role in it last year, was involved in many of the negotiations right up to the end and working with my colleagues to get this done. I'm also really excited about the Seatbelt Bill. We've talked about that in the past. In Louisiana, you cannot tell the jury if you weren't wearing your seatbelt and you were injured in an accident. We got our first vote finally on the Senate floor on that bill after 2 years, 27-10. The similar bill has passed the House twice now, and so we're very confident that this is the beginning of some tort and insurance reform work that the legislature wants. That bill, unfortunately, is bottled up right now with another bill, and it's probably not going to make it through the session. But we're excited that we have a vote, and we know where many of my colleagues stand on that issue. We're also continuing our work to eliminate dedicated funds. That's been another 2-year effort. And folks know that I am not a proponent of tying up our funding with dedicated funds. You know, it's almost half of the state's total budget now is tied up in either dedicated funds or fees and self-generated revenue. And that doesn't allow us to prioritize the state spending because those entities are getting their funding right off the top. And so I think that's a problem, and I'll continue to work with my colleagues both on the Senate and the House side to evaluate all of those funds and work to eliminate those funds where it makes sense. One of the other bills that I'm really proud to say that we've passed is the Sexual Harassment Settlement Bill. This is a huge win for the taxpayer because no longer are we going to use 100% taxpayer dollars to cover the settlements of state employees or elected officials that are guilty of sexual harassment. They're finally going to have some skin in the game. That's a great victory for us. It puts a little teeth into the sexual harassment policies and training in the state, which I began working on that last year. And so I heard you when you said we don't want to use taxpayer dollars for those settlements, and we have legislation now finally that's going to hold those folks accountable. One of the other bills we passed was to extend the Lower Pearl River Basin Task Force. That's an entity that I created last year that's had a tremendous amount of success. And basically the membership consist of agency heads from all of those agencies that have some responsibility for the Lower Pearl River, such as the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, Department of Natural Resources, Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority, the Department of Transportation and Development, as well as representatives from St. Tammany and Washington parishes. And we had brought a lot of horsepower basically to that task force so that we were able to combat on a technical basis the proposed One Lake project up in Jackson, Mississippi. And armed with that ammunition, we were able to work with Congressman Scalise and the rest of our congressional delegation to make sure on the federal level that we had some things in place that were going to make sure that the issues downriver in our area were addressed before that project moved forward. And we also were able to defund that project with federal dollars until they had received approval, which we think is a pretty tall hurdle for them. As you know, we've also done some cleanup on the lower Pearl River, and we've got so much more work to do. So it was important that we extend the work of this task force for another couple of years, and then at some point we will begin to add local members from the community to our efforts. It is my hope that the lower Pearl River Basin Task Force will be a model for all of the watersheds across our state, and that the work that we're doing will fit in nicely with the work being done by the Watershed Council, because we want all of the citizens in Louisiana to be free of drainage issues and flooding issues. And we know that we can't just focus on protecting the coast and restoring the coast, but we have to look at all the riverine areas around the state. And for those of you that supported fantasy sports in our recent election, which passed really greater than 60% in the parishes that I represent, we have bills that we're working on right now that will add some structure in terms of the rules and provide a revenue source to the state of Louisiana for those that are active in fantasy sports. And I'm really excited about some of the work that we're doing in the area of infrastructure. You know, we're taking the BP oil spill economic damages money, and we're bonding that money out to do about $700 million worth of major infrastructure projects all around the state. In our area, that translates into a big success story finally for Highway 3241, which will connect I-12 to Bush. As many of you know, this was part of the timed program 30 years ago that was the result of an additional gas sales tax, 4-cent sales tax, that we in our area have been paying for 30 years. And that money now is going to be used for Highway 3241, along with $50 million from the BP oil spill settlement dollars, and we hope some federal funding to get that project on track. There will be major projects done all around the state in Baton Rouge, Highway 415, LA1 going down to Port Fourchon. There's some work on I-49 and the Jimmy Davis Bridge. We'll put in some cranes for the Port of New Orleans. It's going to be a great success story and one of the most major investments in infrastructure that we have made in our state in a very long time. Closer to home, we'll have some money to continue the work that we're doing at Safe Haven, which is going to be, continues to be one of our great mental health facilities, kind of a one-stop shop there. We have money for the St. Tammany Fishing Pier, closer to my hometown of Slidell. Over in St. Bernard, we're going to be investing in a new St. Bernard Village Revitalization Square, which is going to be a great park. And we even have money for the Civic Center, the Segura Civic Center roof. So I'm really excited to have money for some of those projects. As you know, I've also been very involved in the Finance Committee in working on the budget. We've spent months interviewing all of the agencies and talking about their needs. And we, I think, have done a really good job of trying to streamline operations and fund some areas of our budget that have not received any funding in a long time. We're continuing to fully fund TOPS, which is exciting. And we have $20 million now appropriated for early education. As you know, the teacher pay raises have been a big topic of debate. And we have approved the MFP so that teachers will have locked in from here forward $1,000 a year pay raise, with support workers getting $500, and an additional $39 million going back to the districts. We have funded disability services to the tune of an extra $28 million. They haven't had an increase in funding since 2008. I'm really excited about some additional funding coming right into the Florida Parish's Human Services Authority to the tune of about $1.3 million that will allow them to add primary care to their facilities as well as some additional services. Overall, I think we've done a good job not only in balancing the budget in terms of dollars and cents, but in balancing the needs of our state for those folks that need it the most. This is still a very big budget. It's almost $34 billion, and I think that there's more work to be done so that we can continue to streamline our operations and eliminate waste in state government. Looking ahead, there certainly were a few things that we didn't accomplish this session that were a disappointment, but yet an opportunity for next year. You know, one of those is tort and insurance reform. We know that we have the second highest car insurance rates in the country, and that our litigious environment is a deterrent for many businesses. I also think that there's a lot of work yet to be done in the area of tax reform and budget reform. We need to make sure that we're prepared for a downturn in the economy, which many of the economists are predicting. But I'm looking forward to working with a new group of legislators next year, should you choose to send me back to the Capitol. You know, about 40% of our members will be term limited, and so while we will be losing much historical knowledge, I'm excited about the opportunity to work with some new folks that will be like-minded and will be excited about helping to move our state forward. So after a little bit of rest, I'll be back on the campaign trail campaigning for re-election, and I look forward to talking with you and appreciate your input. It's a privilege to serve and an honor to be here in the state capitol representing you. Godspeed, love you. Talk to you soon.